Alrighty, folks. In the last video, we talked about what do you do when you have bad news stories, and how do you handle those? How do you handle the ones in the news, like on TV and print, and how do you handle the ones that are on like reviews on Facebook and stuff? So check that one out if you want to see how to handle bad news. This one is how do you handle good news, and you may not think that this is something that you really need to think through. Like, how else do you handle it, right? You celebrate and say praise hallelujah, praise God, like we're in the news, right? Like it's going to happen. But I think we found that there's a much more strategic way to handle the good news that's out there, and it's born out of a lesson that I learned years ago. And so one of the local news stations here came to the Dream Center. They selected us as the charity of choice for that year, and it was around Christmas time. And we said, we got great news for you. Like, we're going to award the Dream Center $10,000 worth of airtime, and you're going to be on the news, and you get to make a 30-second commercial. We're going to air it a few times during the day. And I'm like, this is great. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is back when we had next to nothing coming in. It was all our church, thankfully, supporting it. But we were desperate for like the community's buy-in and support. And so we made a little 30-second commercial. Let me scratch that. I struggled to make a little 30-second commercial on a laptop that I had. But I mean, we had our church media, and so we had good footage and everything, but we had to boil it down. And basically it was a promotional just about the Dream Center, kind of getting our brand out there. And then there were some news story follow-ups that year for it. And the news story was very, very gracious for us. And nobody ever came out and told me what to expect, and nobody ever said this is what's going to happen. But I think in my head, like, here's what I thought. I thought, okay, people are going to see us on the news. They're going to see it's around Christmas time, and like they're going to be moved by what we're doing. And we had just started a human trafficking program. It was 2008, and I thought somebody's going to be really moved. They're going to call and want to like donate money or donate stuff or do something, you know. And so that's not what happened. That is not at all what happened. And so I think the final news clip aired on like a Friday afternoon, Friday night, and we went into the weekend, and some of our staff was there doing Adopt a Block on Saturday, but most of the staff didn't come in until Monday morning, of course. And we came in Monday morning, and the answering machine on the receptionist's desk, and then on the top like 2 or 3 menu items on our phone menu were absolutely packed. I think all told we had about 300 messages, 300 phone calls, and it wasn't 300 millionaires like wanting to give us checks. Like, for a minute I was like, there's 300 messages, like what if they're all millionaires? Like, this could be cool. I don't know what I was thinking. They weren't even 300 people that wanted to give us $1,000. That would have been equally amazing, probably, to us at that point. And it wasn't even 300 people wanting to give $100. In fact, it was 300 people that didn't want to give us anything. It was 300 people who were desperate, who were hurt, who were hurting, who needed help, and saw a commercial, saw us on the news saying that the Dream Center helps people. It's the holidays, and at that time we did a big bike giveaway, and we gave away food and clothing all around Christmas. And so we did not expect that. Like, we totally did not expect that. And so we thought we were putting a message out there of Dream Center's doing good stuff. They're pretty cool people. Like, you should help them. We thought that was the message we were projecting. But the message that was received for people was, I can get help from them. And so we called back as many of those people as we could, and fed them to our website, tried to get their information, invited them to our Adopt Block. So it wasn't a total loss. We got them tickets to our annual play and helped them as best we could. But our idea of what was come out of those good news stories was totally different from our reality. And so we learned very early on that for good news stories to be good news, we have to have a sense of what the outcome is going to be. Like, what are we expecting is going to happen? What do we think is going to happen with this news story? And so we've adopted a little bit of a strategy with news stories. I tell that story to every time something like that comes up again, where we're doing a series, or Channel 8 local PBS TV's done a couple things. If I have a moment with the producer or the reporter, I'll always tell that story, or like a shorter version of that story, and just say, they think it's kind of funny, and it is kind of funny. It wasn't funny that in 2008, but I always tell them, I'm like, so my question to you is, what's the angle here? What am I going to be able to say to people as far as our need? And I'm very open with them. I'm saying that I'll say things like, yeah, we want people to know they can get help, but I want you to know that we have a waiting list for almost every one of our programs, and our food lines are long, and so we will help people, but it's not even good publicity for the news station to put out there, hey, you can go get help immediately at the Dream Center, if that's not true. And so I've learned that when I get that call to do a news story, as exciting as it is, and it's thrilling to be able to do that, and to see your brand out there, and to see some of your kids that you're serving. I mean, it's amazing to see that. But as exciting as that is, you as the strategist, as the person guiding the vision and the mission, you need to have some of these honest conversations with the news stations. Now hear me out. I'm not saying be rude. I'm not saying be ungrateful or ungracious. Like, the moment I hit the station, I'm like, man, thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here. Like, we're pumped about this. But at some point, you try to bring it back to, hey, what do you think this is going to mean for our organization? Like, what should we expect, and what are we going to say? And you can use our story. Just say, hey, one of our partner Dream Centers, like, they had this experience, and we just want to make sure that if you're gonna position us in this news story as a place where people can go to get help, like, we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and having extra support and extra staff. And I think it really brings it home to them, because every news reporter and producer I've talked to, they're like, oh my gosh, we never even thought about that. Like, we just thought it's great to get your name out there. It's great. So I literally now, you go on to our website, or it's on the chip. It's on the chip under media stories, and there's one on there from Channel 15 here locally, and literally, you'll see that at the end of these clips, like, they literally are asking for money for us. Like, the News Channel 15 we put on there, they close the story with, we talked to the executive director, Ryan Steele, and as you can imagine, this is an exciting new project, but it's very expensive to do this. The Dream Center is all privately funded, and Mr. Steele tells us that they need $500,000 worth of donations to get this project going. And when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, we're on to something, man. Like, I got the main news anchor, like, raising money for me. Like, this is amazing. And so going into these news stories, if you at all can, try to talk to the producer or the reporter about what to expect. Weave a story like that in there, and just say, hey, we want to be presented as a place people can go get help, but honestly, we need help so that we can help people too. And I found that if you come at it with a gracious heart, a genuine heart, and not sort of some we're grubbing for money type of thing, and you better let me ask for money or I'm not going to do it. Nothing like that. Just genuinely ask. And you know what? If they say no, and you got to take 300 phone calls, that's what you do. That's right. Like, we get to serve. That's what we do. And so that's one of the things as you're going into this news story, just have that conversation with them about what to expect. Number two, we have a saying in our marketing team and our circles that marketing maintains a brand, but PR builds a brand. The marketing that we do, the advertising that we do, that maintains the brand, but it doesn't necessarily fundamentally grow our brand. What truly grows the Dream Center's brand is PR, public relations, news stories. And so once we realize that the advertising we do, the Facebook posts, the social media, all that stuff has a little bit of growth for a brand, and gets our name out there in different things. But boy, the moment there's a news story, or the moment you get mass media or something shared thousands or tens of thousands of times, that's when your brand truly experiences growth. And so you need to be prepared for those moments. So that's probably step number 2. Step number 1, have an honest conversation with them about what to expect. Let them know you need help as well. Can they weave that in? But then step number 2 is preparing for there's this moment in which there's going to be like this. Like your brand is going to expand and contract, and when it expands, you need to be there when it contracts back and help it to truly grow. So here's what we do. So if I know that I'm going to be on channel 3 tonight because I did a news story with him this morning, then I know in my email marketing, on my social media marketing, that we need to get out there quickly and say, check out channel 3, 6 o'clock tonight. The Dream Center is going to be on there with a major announcement. Maybe it's major. Maybe it's the same thing you've been saying for 20 years because nobody will listen to you, and you just got to say it again. But it's a major announcement if you've never heard it before, right? So get that out to your networks. Ask them to share it, and spread the word that way. And also, you tell the news story that you're going to do that. And here's the key to this. So, telling the news story, you're going to share on all your social media channels. Can they share it on their social media channels? Now, many of them will. Many of them have a news cycle. They all have a news cycle, but many of them have a social media share type thing. But I'll tell you what, sometimes you get skipped. Sometimes they'll only share the things that are really like, something that, some politician has done as horrendous or something, sometimes they already have a plan. But if you say, we're going to share it and get all of our people watching this tonight, can you, and sometimes it's not even the station, sometimes it's a reporter who has tens of thousands of followers, will you retweet or share our thing? So that's one thing that we've done that has helped to perpetuate that brand. The next thing that we'll do is when people share whatever you are putting out there, or when you share online, you want to make sure that you're as best as you can sending everybody to one place. It's great that they allow you to put up a phone number, and if your ministry is a hotline outreach number, that's what you want. But again, if we're talking about getting support, you want people to go to that certain page. And so often what we'll do is on our Facebook page, our Instagram, our website, specifically the website, we will change our banner on the night that it is appearing, and we'll change the banner to be much more appealing to people who maybe don't know us really well. If your website is set up right already, it's already kind of going to do this. But again, what you're trying to do is, for example, our Dream Center website in Phoenix here, we have multiple ministries, and so we kind of feature 3: addiction recovery, human trafficking, and foster care. But if that story that night is about foster care, we're going to see a huge spike the next day of like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. I think the most we ever saw is 15,000 people are going to come to our website and see what the heck's going on with this Dream Center place. So on those nights, if the story in the news was about foster care, but yet the banner running on our webpage is about human trafficking or something else, it's a mixed message, and all you're doing is in the minds, because people are going through a journey, in their minds, like you've interrupted the flow of that journey. So in their minds, they're sitting on the couch, they're in bed watching TV or something, and typically they're going to reach for their phone. They're going to pull up your website, and if the news story is about trafficking, then the first thing you want them to see is about trafficking, and the second thing you want them to see is what can they do to help. So sometimes flat out ask for money, sometimes flat out get their contact information. We talked about email marketing in another post that we did, but make sure that it's a seamless sort of a mental transition for them. If you don't have the ability to change your website because you work with a graphic designer or something, I would almost encourage you to send people to your Facebook page, because then you can still do some getting their email address and do some stuff more on your Facebook page, but you can change your Facebook banner to be about the topic that the news story was about. And so those 2 things have been 2 of our are best ways to promote or to use good news. How do we use good news? The only other way that I'll talk about, the third kind of thing that I'll talk about as far as using good news, is something we've done a little bit of lately. And so I highly encourage you, if you aren't already doing this, to go to Google and sign up for Google Alerts, and sign up for the areas that are topical for your ministry. So I'm signed up for like Gallup, New Mexico, and Colorado City, and Warren Jeffs, and Los Angeles, and Nogales, and the border situation. I'm signed up for probably 15 different Google Alerts, and the main ones that though are like human trafficking and foster care. And so let's stick with the trafficking theme. So every day, and you can set the frequency, I get an email that has all of the news stories in my area that are about that topic. And one of the things that's been very good for us is, say I get that Google alert about human trafficking, and it's I open it up and there's 10 news stories about human trafficking or the Dream Center or whatever, and I'll click through. Our marketing team, our interns, will click through and share some of those stories on our social media. And if it's appropriate, because you don't want to be like, cheesy, scammy, kind of weird stuff, when you share it, you're tagging that news company and you're saying, check out what's going on in this city for human trafficking. The Dream Center is proud to have been able to serve girls from that area, and that news station who has just posted a story now gets views, and I assure you their marketing team is looking at this. They're looking at shares for that and things. You can even go into news stations' feeds, friend them, and then share, hey, this is an option. Like I know you did a great story about girls getting rescued. For any of your readers who wonder what happens next, because that's one of the things that rarely gets covered in the news, is like, this is great, rah rah, we arrested a bunch of dudes and rescued these girls out, but like, okay, where did they go? Like, they just kind of magically go into this abyss, or foster care kids like aged out of the system, like, where did they go? Like, what happened next, right? And so you're the next. So finding the gaps that are out there in the news cycles, and these are good news stories that are out there, and you can. It's a little self-promoting. I mean, ideally, you would have an intern or someone who kind of promotes it for you. But honestly, you start looking around at other news feeds, you're going to see other nonprofits doing this same thing. And I don't think. I think as long as you're not too scammy and you're not trying to sell and do bait and switch stuff or anything, as long as you're legitimately saying, hey, we're a part of this conversation. We're a part of this news story because we're helping the girls that get rescued. It's absolutely legitimate. And that's another way that you can use good news to further build your brand and to build your support group out there. So I hope this has been helpful. Those are the ways that we handle news, both good news and bad news. God bless you guys.